We are back with Outfielder Review Part 2 today. And what do you do with names like O'Neal Cruz, the new Bash Brothers on the Athletics, and more? We will get into it on today's action-packed episode of Locked On Fantasy Baseball.
You are Locked On Fantasy Baseball, your daily fantasy baseball podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, fantasy baseball fanatics, and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Baseball podcast, brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, we're your number one source of fantasy baseball knowledge, and thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. I'm your host, Dominic Martino. You can find me on Twitter at DomMartinoFB. Here, as always, with my brother, my co-host, my partner in crime, Matthew Odnay, and you can find him on Twitter at Matthew_Odnay. If you're watching on YouTube and you haven't already, hit that little bell below. It will subscribe you to the channel and give you notification every time we drop a new episode. Or if you're listening on the audio side of things on a platform like Apple or Spotify that allows 5-star ratings and reviews, we would truly appreciate it if you could do that for us. And lastly, but most importantly to you guys and Matt and I this time of year, give us a chance on the Subtext platform. Through Subtext, it's an in-depth personalized experience through text message alerts that are going to go right to your phone, offering so much more than we can in this 30-minute episode. And this time of year, you'll be getting our 2025 rankings, sleepers, breakouts, bust, and so much more. So if you are interested in joining us on Subtext, the link is in the bio wherever you're listening, watching, or it's available on any of our social media platforms. And all right, Matt, we're back at it again. And my personal opinion, I think this is going to be one of our best episodes. Definitely one of the best episodes of the off season so far, because this is really where you see a lot of differences. We teased it a little bit in the first episode of Outfield Review. If you haven't seen that, check that one out. It was a great episode. So here is where you're going to see a lot of big differences in Matt and I's rankings. And then we might even talk a little bit of ADP, where some of these guys are going, which will be different than where we have them ranked. So you're going to want to make sure you stay locked on for this whole episode. And Matt, why don't you get us started here?
All right. So first off, let's get our cool new graphics out.
Let's do it.
Sorry, it doesn't say 13 through 24. I will be working on that. I'm good at Canva, not that good. But anyway, here we go. So my rankings for the top. Oh, I got to change that too. For 13 through 24 is Ronald Acuna, Teoscar Hernandez, Jackson Merrill, Jared Duran, James Wood, Mike Trout, O'Neal Cruz, Jazz Chisholm Jr., Brent Rooker, Lawrence Butler, Brian Reynolds, and Wyatt Langford. Dom?
Yeah, so I got my 13 through 24 here. And once again, didn't preface it at the top, but Matt and I's rankings are always geared towards 5x5 head-to-head categories leagues. That's what Matt and I specialize in. We'll always give you a little bit of point spin. So just wanted to preface that up top. My 13 through 24, I have Marcell Ozuna at 13, Jackson Merrill at 14, James Wood at 15, Jazz Chisholm at 16, Kyle Schwarber at 17, Mike Trout at 18, Michael Harris at 19, Luis Robert at 20, Wyatt Langford at 21, Lawrence Butler at 22, Brent Rooker at 23, and O'Neal Cruz at 24. So, Matt, I'll let you take the wheel here. Where do you want to start off here? Because we could go in a bunch of different directions here. Like I said, I think it's going to be such a fun episode.
It is. So, okay, since we have a lot of disagreements and whatnot in here, let's break down, I guess, our differences in. This is fun. I want to say why you have Michael Harris in your top 24 and I don't.
Ooh, we're starting here. All right, so Matt's bringing the heat today, guys. I will say this. Matt and I, we've been, if you guys don't know, Matt and I have been best friends for pretty much our whole lives. We've known each other since we were kids. And when it comes to fantasy baseball, we agree on a lot of stuff. We honestly, truly do. This is the guy this year that we're completely on opposite sides of the spectrum on. So let's get started. Little Michael Harris, plays for those Atlanta Braves. I'm a big fan of Michael Harris, and he was banged up last year. A lot of that Braves team was banged up, so he didn't really, get to show his full potential. And I don't even think he's really tapped it yet. I think people forget Michael Harris is still only 23 years old, right? In 2024, it wasn't a good year, but let's look back at what he did in the previous year, right? Let's go back to 2023 for Michael Harris. 505 at-bats, 76 runs, 18 bombs, 20 steals, and a 293 batting average. So nothing spectacular. And then literally the year before that, 19 homers, 20 steals, 297 batting average, 75 runs. Nothing to write home about, right? But for a young player, of his age, I think he really showed he can hang in the bigs. Even if you look at the underlying stuff last year, he didn't have a great year overall. Batting average looked good for the underlying stuff. He hit the ball hard. He barreled it up well. The exit velocity was good. The bat speed was very good. The sprint speed, 75th percentile, above average. And then even if you go back to 2023, he was in the 87th percentile of sprint speed when he was healthy. So we know he is very fast. The opportunity is going to be there for him at the beginning of the season. I think he's going to hit leadoff while Acuna's out and getting healthy. So he may not stay there the whole year. He finally has the chance from opening day to make a name for himself. And the kid is just too talented, I think, not to succeed given the opportunity. The whole team's going to be healthy behind him. Besides Acuna, you're going to have Olsen, you're going to have Riley, Sean Murphy, and the rest of them boys, bringing Michael Harris home. I think there's a world where it's 85 plus runs. Honestly, there's so much untapped potential with the power and the speed of Michael Harris. I don't think a 25 homer, 30 steal season is out of the question. And then he has a great eye for the ball. He knows how to put the ball in play where the defense isn't. He's just a student of the game. That's the term I love to use with guys like him. Hit 297 his first year, hit 293 his second year. I think he's a guy, like I said, 285 plus. It's not out of the world where he could hit 300 as he comes into his own as a young man. I think he's just going to have a stellar year. Like I said, the spot in the lineup after Acuna comes back is going to be a big thing for him. I honestly would hope they would hit him last, because then as the lineup turns over, you still have Acuna and, like I said, Olsen and Riley right behind him then. So I think that would be the sweet spot for Michael Harris. And that's why I have him, ranked inside of my my top 20 at 19.
I mean, look, here's the deal, right? Like, I'm not going to be this anti. He has no talent. That's never my point when it comes to Michael Harris. The point I have to make with Michael Harris is very simple. He's hit leadoff before, especially last year after Acuna went down. Wasn't able to take advantage. They moved him down back into the lineup lower. Wasn't able to capitalize on that. Over the years, even hitting out of the, the 7th spot, the 6th spot, the 4th, the 5th spot, and lower in the lineup, he was never able to break out like, I don't know, this guy like Kyle Tucker that was completely just, bombarded into that position in the hitting order forever. And, that's what tells me that Michael Harris, I don't think got what what it take to be an elite player. He has all the tangibles under the hood, but if he's not taking advantage of the opportunity and thrusting himself higher over the last 3 years and pretty much more of the last 23 and 24, then that tells me that we're never going to see this elite season that we're going to. I'm not going to say, okay, this is his whole story. We might get 1 year, but I'm telling you right now, it's not this year. He's not going to be able to take advantage of Acuna being out. It's going to be slow. And then by the time he even catches fire, it's just not going to be enough. I just don't see Michael Harris living up to the hype, and I don't want him as my OF2. You talk about my OF3, I'll feel a little bit more comfortable. But my OF2, and he's going up, I think, if I'm not mistaken, as a top 15 outfielder based off of ADB. Yeah.
16, pick 56.
That's vomit sauce. A guy that you pray that I've been doing it to do it for the last couple of years, still hasn't achieved the goal with opportunity. I just don't see a path for success to be able to return on that pick.
I'll jump in and just say this because, we've talked about him a little bit. I just want to say one last thing on Michael Harris here. I mean, he did hit for last year hitting first. It was 48 games. That was the most games that he hit at any spot in the lineup. Over that time, 9 homers, 274 batting average, 2 steals. And that's with him being banged up too. It wasn't a healthy season for him last year. I think we give him a break with the injury because we know he can hit the ball. And, it's not that he was ever really a high-end prospect. It's just, when you look at all the underlying stuff from every year of his career, it all looks like what you want to see across the board with the power, the speed, the batting average. He's somebody that has the talent to pull it together. And, he had some success in the leadoff spot last year. Like I said, and even 13 walks to 32 strikeouts. I love that walk to strikeout ratio for a guy like Michael Harris. So I think given the opportunity this year, if he's healthy, I think he can take advantage of it. He did a decent job. Like I said, 48 games last year, hitting leadoff for Harris, 274, 9 bombs, 29 runs. And he was banged up. So I think that definitely improves. But let's move on here. I think it's enough Michael Harris. So and actually, before we jump in and we pick another player here across these wonderful names that we have lined up, we will be right back.
Great segue. And like I said, it was a great segue because looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious, crack into a good source of protein with wonderful pistachios. Wonderful pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving it over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help you keep the feeling fuller longer. Personally, I love the no shell variety, which I truly do. I hate cracking it open. It's the perfect grab and go snack for a busy day. Whether I'm snacking at my desk or on the road or just a quick protein boost, they're always my go to. And if you love cracking open every shell, that's just that satisfying crunch. Then the shell in shell option are just our classic favorite. Get it snacking, get cracking, and with the snack that packs protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. And quite honestly, I actually don't know any other brand of pistachio. I've been eating them for God knows how long. They're just absolutely phenomenal. Love having them as a part of the show. Introducing the Locked On Fantasy Baseball podcast, Diamond Club on Subtext, your ultimate fantasy baseball, pretty much Bible. Look, you want to win your league, there's only one way to do it. You got to have our rankings. Dom will one day this year, whether that's after draft season or during, finish his tier-based rankings. I already have
Guys, I promise you, I'll have them done by the end of this weekend. If you're out there on the subtext and you're waiting on that, I'll have it out by let's call it. Give me till Sunday.
I'm calling Bill. Anyway, we got our sleepers, we got our breakouts, we got our busts. I'm in the middle of working on my prospect rankings. Hopefully finish that by the end of this weekend. I'm going to do a rankings update this week. We're getting it out, and the only way you're going to win your leagues is with our rankings. So don't want to miss out on that. But let's get back into the show. Let's talk about some awesome stuff. And Dom, I targeted you. I was being a little mean. It is now your time.
That's what we do out here.
It's a little time. I don't even have a cup for Haterade this week, so we'll see what happens here.
I will say this: you weren't as mean to me and Michael Harris as I thought you were going to be. So I think that the fact that you didn't have the Haterade cup there for the segment might help me a little bit. But let's jump back in here, right? Let's look at these rankings here, and let's find somebody that we haven't really talked about because as I jump down this list, we have some differences. There's actually a couple guys that we're actually spot on about, but one guy here I see here, it's not a huge difference, but we have a little bit of gap of him. I think I'm not sure. I think we talked about him recently. Jazz Chisholm. We have a little bit of a gap there with him, and I know you're someone that isn't as high on as Jazz this year. So I kind of just want to hear your thought process behind, not being as high on Jazz as myself and maybe the rest of the fantasy baseball community.
Yeah, I mean, look, when it comes to Jazz, it's really just a matter of confidence and can he actually, one, stay healthy, two, be able to produce the way he was doing while he was on the Yankees and repeat it. I don't really know that answer. Somebody said if he played on the Yankees for the full season, he would have a 28.
Yeah, I think that was me.
Yeah.
And then he would have 24 if he played the full season in Miami.
Right. Well, he had half a season at Miami and half a season on Yankees, still ended up with 23 home runs. So, I mean, that pace was pretty much on par with, depending on whatever park he was hitting at that point. Stolen base numbers were pretty darn good this year. You can't argue that. That's something you want to see. And the fact that he played, 147 games for the first time in his absolute career is wonderful. Now, the thing is, a guy gets it done for the first time at age 26, and you're just like, okay, cool. Do you really think he's going to be able to do it again? That's the question mark. And the fact that he's going up at pick 23 and you're pretty much your OF1, do you really feel comfortable with a guy that can really go down and miss large chunks of the season? Before this year, 97 games, 60 games, 124 games. And even in the COVID year, right? 21 games. That was a 50-game season, still missed 30 games. It's still significant at the fact that he misses so many games throughout his whole career. And it's just okay, he does it once and now everybody's ready to anoint him and put the crown on. Yes, is the upside there. I've been saying this his whole career, even before Dom bought into Jazz.
Yeah, that's the truth. Yeah, you were on Jazz before me. I'll give you that one.
He's very talented. It's just a fact of questioning, can he stay healthy and can he do it? But also, can he live up to the power expectation to understand all the underlying stats? But, is he going to really be able to do it? And that's the question you have to ask yourself. And are you willing to bet your season on Jazz Chisholm as your OF1. And that is why I have him, ranked as low as I do. There's guys above him that either I want to take a shot on that I think have higher upside, or I've done it already, or just, quite honestly, think the ceiling is just higher. So for me, Jazz has fallen down to what, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19th outfielder. I don't think is a bad price. You're just not getting him at that price. ADP has him well outside of that thing in the top 12. And, good luck. Enjoy that one. I'll let you have that landmine all day.
I fully agree with the fact that you can't take him as your outfielder one. Current ADP right now is the 13th outfielder off the board, pick 36. Rich for my blood. I have Jazz as the 16th outfielder. I think if you take him as an outfielder number 2, that you're in a good spot, because hopefully you mitigated a little bit of risk with your outfielder number 1, and then you maybe you don't take like a Mike Trout or another injury prone outfielder as well, and you could be all right. There's a world where it's okay. But my thing with Jazz is, and I think, a lot of people don't really have this in their head yet, is the fact he's playing second for the Yankees, right? So a week into the season, he gets the eligibility on Yahoo. And then I believe within 2 weeks, I think it's 15 games on some other platforms, so 2 weeks. So he'll have second, third, and outfield in pretty much every platform. So he becomes a Swiss Army knife. He becomes, I threw him into my second base rankings, for just to see where I'd have him. He wound up at third in my second base rankings. So you're basically taking an elite second baseman, a decent outfielder, and somebody you could throw at third if you need him to. In Jazz, the health is always the question mark. It's not the talent, and I agree with Matt full-heartedly that you can't draft him as your outfielder number 1, and if you do want to take him as a second baseman, you have to back him up with somebody else. I wouldn't wait. I would probably jump back in like the Nico Horner, Luis Garcia range and grab one of them as my like utility with a guy like Jazz Chisholm. That's if you do have the anticipation to play him at second, which that's the mindset I'd have with Jazz if I was drafting him. All upside in the world. He's going to have a good spot in that Yankees lineup. And there could be a really big year here, but once again, can he stay on the field and play 140 games again? That yet remains to be seen. All right, Matt, I threw Jazz out there. I don't know if you want to start a little bit of, someone we're closer on, guys, or if you want to, there's somebody else you kind of see we have a difference on that you want to talk about.
No, you know what? Like, here's the thing, right? Like, this range is very ambiguous. These guys can float any which way. It's all just a matter of what you're looking for. Like, there's guys, especially right now, that I have ranked pretty high. Like, we both have Jackson Merrill within one position.
Yeah.
I like Jackson Merrill for the upside and what he did last year, and I would think you did too, for your ranking. So what Jackson Merrill did in his rookie year was actually really impressive. He showed up and he said, "Yo, guys, like, do not forget about me. Here I am." And 554 at bats, he had 77 runs, 31 doubles, 6 triples, 24 bombs, 90 ribs, 16 stolen bases, and batted 292 all in his rookie year. And he didn't even blink. Like, pretty consistent for most of the year. You can't say everybody was 100%, consistent in baseball. That's unlikely. But when it comes to this kid, I just think that next year is going to be really interesting. Everything under the hood said, hey, X-WOB is sitting at 372, X batting average sitting at 303, the X slug is sitting at 534, average exit velocity sitting at 90 miles an hour, barreling about 11% of the time, creating hard contact 43.9% of the time. That launch angle is absolutely gorgeous at nearly 40% of the time. He doesn't really whiff and he doesn't really strike out. I just wish he wouldn't chase as much, but everything else screams that he's going to have a, sophomore breakout. And that's the reasoning behind my ranking. And I think Dom too. I don't want to speak for both of us, but what I will say is he's a guy that you need to target in the second round that, may not have been a guy that you're like, oh, I don't know. Or maybe you didn't own him last year, didn't understand what he did last year and what kind of meaning that carried, going into the next year. A guy that's able to come up and not even get a lick of the bigs before this and then comes out and does this, that usually means a really big sophomore campaign, and I'm ready to get upon it.
Yeah, I have one word for Jackson Merrill, superstar. He's going to be a superstar. He's going to be one of the best players in the league. I have no doubt about it. I'm lucky enough to have him in one of my leagues. It's an 8-man keeper league. And I'm keeping him this year in that league. I won't let him go in that league. I have him like Ellie De La Cruz. I have a great young core in that league, and I want him to be a part of it. He's coming off the board as the 12th outfielder, pick 32. You get him in the 3rd round. I think that's a great spot for Jackson Merrill. And honestly, I will say this. He can be an outfielder number 1. I think he's somebody. As I look at like him versus Jarren Duran, I don't. As I look deeper into it, and I have Jarren Duran ranked higher, but I like Jackson Merrill a little bit more, to be honest with you. I think Jackson Merrill is a little bit more talented. I think, he's going to hit in a good spot in that Padres lineup. Hopefully Tatis is healthy this year. But with that being said, we have a bunch of great names, probably going to do a little bit of names that were a little bit closer here on to end things up. But make sure you stick around because you got to hear why we have these guys ranked where we do. So stay locked on. Those names and more coming up next. And all right, guys, I need to talk to you about my friends over here at Game Tips Off the NBA Actions. Just place to get in on it than FanDuel. #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game. So even if you miss the opening tip-off or you want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you can stay in the action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. I personally love using FanDuel's live betting feature because it keeps every moment of the game exciting. Whether I'm backing my team for a late-game rally or picking up a player to hit a clutch 3, I never feel like I missed my chance. And guys, I'm mixing things up for you. Go bet on Victor Wembanyama, man. And I know it sounds, a little bit straightforward, but I think he's going to have a huge second half. They kept that team together. De'Aaron Fox is over there now. Chris Paul, Castle showed off in the dunk contest, even though it wasn't that great. But you know what? He still did his thing. So bet on Victor Wembanyama. That's points, blocks, rebounds, anything that you want. So right now, you head over to the app. That's super easy to use. And when you win, you're going to get paid instantly. So once again, right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. And all right, Matt, let's jump back into it here. Guys, target Jackson Merrill. And if you have off-season trading and you're in like a keeper league, maybe somebody's not aware of how good Jackson Merrill actually is, and maybe you could pull out a sneaky trade. Jackson Merrill is going to be really, really good for the future. And guess what? He was only 21 years old last year when he did what he did. So, you make sure you target him. But all right, Matt, you pick Jackson Merrill. My turn to jump back in here. And if you could for me, my brother, if you could throw those rankings back up on the board there so I could kind of see who I want to talk about here in our rankings, because I know there was a couple of guys that we were kind of spot on. And you know what, Matt? I remember who it was as soon as you pulled it up. Let's talk some Mike Trout, right? Such an interesting name. We both have him ranked as the 18th outfielder. He's officially moving to right field. Hopefully that takes a little bit off his legs, and his body. He's not going to have to move around as much as he did when he was playing center. And this is the latest we've ever gotten to take Mike Trout, since he became Mike Trout, right? And the talent's still there. I think that's undeniable. He's coming off the board as the 29th outfielder, pick 104. You're getting Mike Trout after pick 100. Not going to say it's never going to happen again, but Mike Trout's got something left in the tank, and he's got something left to prove, right? And I still believe Mike Trout's a first ballot Hall of Famer at this point in his career. But you know what? He still wants to show out and do his thing. He is going to be 33 this year. I still think if Trout can get us 125, 130 games, there's 35, 40 home run upside. The RBIs might not be crazy just because the team around him isn't going to be, as stacked as, it had been with Ohtani and the boys there. And when Don actually decided he wanted to play baseball. So I really still like Mike Trout. Like I said, 35 home runs, 280 plus batting average. Don't think he's going to run much. Even though he stole 6 bags last year, I'm not counting on steals from Mike Trout. But, 85 RBIs, 85 runs. He's still going to be a big contributor. And the whole thing is you don't have to jump him up too much. jump him up 10, 15 picks. You don't have to go crazy. You don't have to draft Mike Trout super high. But, pick 104's where he's coming off the board now. Move him up to where Matt and I have him. That's like the around outfielder 20. We have him at 18 because we're a little bit more bullish on Trout. But, if you move him around outfielder 20 and you're talking around pick, maybe like 85. So you can even put him out to outfielder 25, right? Pick 85, pick 90 in that range. I'm taking Mike Trout there all day just because we know who he is. We know the talent, and it's really only the question of health. And I'll say this, I'm a big advocate of in fantasy, any fantasy sport, I draft talent. I draft the guys. Maybe not. Football's a little different. I won't lie to you. Football's a little different. I'm not going to speak too much on football. Matt has you covered with the football, content over there. Yeah, man. I still like Mike Trout. I think there's something left in the tank. Draft him with confidence. You can take him as a very high-end outfielder number 3. If you're feeling frisky, a low-end outfielder number 2.
Yeah, honestly, you did such a great job. I know, in all honesty, I mean, look, the last thing I'm going to say is, he's the one guy, even if he doesn't play a full season, I kind of want my hands on it. We've seen what he's done in the past, even with 425 at bats, he still had 30 home runs in exchange. Like, Mike Trout is worth every single absolute pick. It's just amazing.
He hit, real quick, in 2019, he hit 45 home runs in 470 at bats.
Right. So he doesn't need a full season to produce ridiculous numbers, but if he does manage to play a full season, then you're just in for a treat, essentially. So when it comes to Mike Trout, you pretty much can't pass on the value. It's ridiculous at this point. And coming back from that ACL, I don't think that's going to infringe it. It's not like the dude runs anyway at this point. So it is what it is. But this next guy here, I do want to talk about, and that's Lawrence Butler of the Las Vegas A's Athletics. I don't know what they're calling themselves these days, but we'll figure it out. Lawrence Butler, I love the dude. I love the new park. I love the fact that they're hitting in a AAA park. Really makes it all the difference for me with him. He's a guy that hits the ball really hard. His average exit velocity is sitting at 91 miles an hour. And he barrels 11% of the time and creates hard contact nearly 50% of the time at 47.4. And, the X-Woba is sitting at, 344, and the X-Slug is fitting at 471. He's absolutely a behemoth of a man. It's sitting at 6'3", 210 pounds. And last year speaks volumes, right? Like, he was able to play 125 games and get 412 at bats, had 63 runs, 24 doubles, 2 triples, 22 bombs, 57 ribs, 18 stolen bases, and batted .262. It screams you need to get this kid. And now with the smaller park, the power, things like that are all culminating towards why it's more relevant to pick this kid. I'm super excited to have him on my team at the end of the day. And, honestly, he might be moving up in my rankings, more and more throughout this offseason because of just the upside of this kid. He's going to be a 5-category contributor, I think. If he can even just maintain the 18 stolen bases, keep the batting average where it is, where I think is actually, 100% doable just based off his batting average being pretty much on par. The only thing that might step in his way is in the points leagues because he strikes out so much in comparison to what he does. He struck out, 108 times to 35 walks, but, we've seen guys do it in the bigs where they strike out over, 150 times and only walk so many, but they're still able to maintain a pretty decent batting average because they just put the bat to the ball so often. And Lawrence Butler has that potential. So he's another one. I wouldn't say he has, OF1 upside, but high-end OF2 upside. And, I wouldn't be surprised if, he's not a, more closer by the end of this year as, the number 14th or 13th outfielder by the end of the year.
Yeah, man, I'm glad you finally turned the corner here on my boy Lawrence Butler. I told everybody last year to pick him up at the end of the year like I did, and he won me a couple leagues, and I hope he won you guys a couple of leagues. Down the stretch last year, he took off in July, Lawrence Butler. 24 games, 10 homers, 27 RBIs, 4 steals, hit .363. Was almost just as hot in August where he played 26 games, 8 homers, 18 RBIs, 4 steals, .266, and he hit .280 in September/October with 6 steals. So like I said, he was a league winner down the stretch last year. I think he's going to have a monster season. I think he's going to hit third in that young athletics lineup. That they scored a lot of runs last year. They may not be a great team overall, but they go out there some nights and they put up a lot of runs. And Lawrence Butler was a big part of that. I think he's going to be a big part of that again this year. I have him ranked 22nd. I think that's a great spot for him. He's coming off the board as the 24th outfielder. Lawrence Butler is pick 91. Great spot to grab him. Like Matt said, great outfielder number 2. And there's a lot of pop in that bat, man. There's 40 home run upside in that bat. With 25, 30 steals too. So if he lives up to the hype and he hits, let's say 255, between 255 and 265 with 40 home runs and 30 steals. That is outfielder number 1 upside. I personally, in my opinion. But with that being said, we're at the end of the stretch here, and I want to preface this as we finish up this episode. At this point in the draft, when you are drafting outfielders, it kind of becomes more about how your team is starting to look. You may move a guy like Kyle Schwarber up a little bit if you need power. You might move a guy like Michael Harris up if you need a little bit of batting average, and vice versa. So as you look at these names and you're building your team, you don't always follow the rankings exactly. You kind of develop what you need for your team, unless it's a points league and you're just building as many points as you can. But if you're playing in a regular roto league or a head-to-head categories league, that's something you definitely need to take into account. But Matt, anything else before we wrap things up?
Very well said. And take advantage of ADP. Like,
Yes.
Don't draft, wholeheartedly to the rankings. Like, take advantage, look at ADP, and you might be able to get a lot of these guys on a value. Also, not saying to wait around for him because we trust him as an OF2. Stack the box. There's a reason why you do tier-based rankings. You want to have as many guys as you can in the higher tiers because that means your team is just better. So, just because you can get it, draft a guy in this tier now that's going around that ADP and then swing back around for that value and grab that guy in the tier as well. It's just one of those things. So just pay attention, utilize both tools, ADP and tiers, and you will have a key to victory right there and then. But guys, please like, subscribe, comment, rate, review, do everything you can to share this show. Quite honestly, yes, we are awesome and we are going to help you win your leagues.
Yes,
Share it
sir.
with your friends. It keeps the lights on. And also, too, you only know if you're that good if your friends have the same knowledge. So, don't be a hoarder. And when you're done, check out our boy Sully over at Locked On MLB. He'll give you great real baseball coverage. Have a great rest of your day, guys. Peace out.